The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hi folks, I think I'm seeing that there are a couple of you on. Can you guys hear me? You should be able to use the chat or the question function. Excellent. Okay, we're gonna just wait a couple more minutes in case anybody else jumps on, and then we'll rock and roll at noon. Okay, well, thank you everybody for joining us. I was talking with Tara about this, and we decided to give a webinar a go to see if maybe that's easier for folks. I know that it is a holiday, so I'm jealous of anybody that's not at work right now because I definitely am, but you guys have to come to class, so it's fine. But hopefully, if anybody that is working, this might also be helpful if you can jump on during your lunch hour as opposed to keeping everybody late after class. Do let me or Tara know if you are enjoying this as opposed to staying late after class. I do think that there are times in which having somebody in person and being able to take questions in person is helpful. So we will likely still be doing a deeper dive into academic planning and registration a little bit later in March, maybe once the schedule is out and I can really take some time, go over the graduation requirements a little bit more, a little bit deeper, and talk also about how you register since you haven't had to do that yet. So I think this is going to be sort of a 30,000-foot overview on some of the real basics of academic planning and what to expect over the next couple of years. I know that some folks have had questions about how journal would play into that, so we're going to touch on that a little bit. This is also an opportunity, though, for you to ask questions as the journal registration date I know is coming up. So you should be able to see the little questions module, and it worked great when you guys were able to tell me if you could hear me. I'll keep an eye on things, and if questions are popping up, go ahead and type out your questions. I'll keep an eye on it, and we will hopefully address them as we go. I'm hoping to get you guys out of here under an hour, depending on the number of questions. But like I said, we're going to kind of do a pretty broad view with the understanding that I'll likely be back. You guys haven't gotten rid of me yet, to do a deeper dive at some point in March once we have a schedule and we can talk about some other things to consider once we're there. So, all right, off we go. Maybe. Okay, great. Okay, so here are the really basics of what you need to get out of here. 86 credits. So, oh yes, of course I should have mentioned this in the at the jump. We will be posting this on my WCL, so don't worry. Tell your friends who aren't able to make it, or if you need to reference it back, we'll certainly be able to put it back. Okay, great. Basics of graduation requirements. The magic number is 86. 86 credits. You also have to complete, of course, all of your required classes. Right now, those are the only things that you are in. We'll talk about what the rest of them are. The trickiest of the graduation requirements is this thing called residency. It has nothing to do with where you live, so don't worry if you're in Virginia and you're coming to see us. It basically is how much you are in, how long you have been in school. It's showing that you have been in classes for a appropriate number of hours. So for an evening student, what we need to show is that you have been in school for 8 semesters of 8 credits or more. We can manipulate this a little bit because a lot of evening students are going to take some summer classes, which we can use to either compensate for a semester that maybe dipped below 8 credits. Maybe you had a big project at work that you needed to be able to give yourself some extra wiggle room for, and so you wanted to only take maybe 6 or 7 credits. But if we had summer credits, we could sort of use that to compensate and sort of make what we call a semester equivalent. The other thing is for anybody that's thinking that we're not interested in going full-time and graduating in 3 years, but 4 years does seem like a bit of a slog, what's possible is to sometimes combine summers with other summers and get you out of here in 3.5 years, because I can take 2 summers and make a quote-unquote semester that way. So I will say this, residency is the trickiest of the requirements. It's the hardest one to kind of have an understanding of where you are and where we need to go. If you were thinking about manipulating your graduation timeline at all, you're either trying to get out of here early, you are maybe trying to get out of here a little late, or you need to drop below 8 credits in a semester, something going on with work or family, whatever it may be, that's when you're going to want to come and talk to me. We're going to sketch it out one-on-one. The other thing you should know is the upper level writing requirement. I'm not going to go super deep into this right now because it's something that's going to be down the pike for you guys. But basically, it's a 7,000 word legal paper. Lots of ways to get it done. Most often folks will take a seminar where the method of assessment, as opposed to being a final exam, is a big long paper. And then you end up having to write that paper for the class anyway. It counts as the upper level writing requirement. Bada boom, bada boom. And then the last one is skills credits. We'll talk a little tiny bit about that. Basically, you need to do 6 credits that are considered experiential or professional skills. One way to do that is clinic. Clinic is usually 7 credits in a semester all by itself. Sometimes it's 5, but it's going to get a major chunk of it done, if not getting it all done completely within a semester. Another thing that counts for that is externships. Evening students tend to do externships a little less for obvious reasons. You guys already have a full-time gig going on. But the easiest way, honestly, is that we have a whole number of classes which are simulation or skills-based classes. And so a lot of evening students will get these 6 credits out of the way by just taking 2 courses that are 3 credits each. We can talk a little bit about what those are, but those are things like criminal trial advocacy, pretrial litigation, appellate advocacy, e-discovery, anything that's got sort of the simulation piece to it as opposed to learning doctrinal substantive law. But those are the basics. That's what we're shooting for here. 86 credits. You're going to do all the classes that I tell you you have to do. You're going to stay in school for 8 semesters of 8 credits or more, which is 4 years. We can use summer times to kind of make up some room if we need to. We have an upper level writing requirement and we have a skills requirement. So here's the required courses. Right now, you guys have already done the torts, the contracts, and the first semester of legal rhetoric. Right now, you're in the Civ Pro, the Crim, and the second semester of legal rhetoric. What we have left to do is in your fall, you will have to do common law. It will be pegged, it will be section based, just like your torts or your Civ Pro. I am venturing to guess, it's been like this in the past couple semesters. It's probably going to be Monday, Wednesday, 6 to 8. So you can just kind of like pencil that into your life now. It will be pegged there. Like I said, you won't have any choices on that. The other required courses, this is required of all students, both daytime and evening students, that they have to have it completed by the fall of their 2L year, is criminal procedure. However, we will offer a whole number of sections of criminal procedure on all different days, all different times. You can pick the section that fits for you. So where you don't have any choice with con law, that's going to be pegged on a Monday, Wednesday sort of a thing. The Crim Pro, you may decide you want to do Monday, Wednesday, 8 to 10 and go through that full 6 to 10 time slot. Maybe you are have a bit of a flex schedule at work and you're able to come if there's a 4 o'clock section. You have the flexibility on the criminal procedure. The other thing you should know is we also always offer criminal procedure over the summertime. So for evening students who want to start to be able to make some choices because you guys have limited class schedules as it is, taking the Crim Pro over the summer can really open up your fall schedule because now we only have to deal with the con law and we have some more room to play around with some other credits. Looking forward to the spring, property, same as con law, gonna be pegged probably on Monday, Wednesday, 6 to 8, and that's gonna sort of live where it lives. Similar to criminal procedure, you're gonna have legal ethics. It's gotta be in there, same as Crim Pro. We're gonna offer a whole slew of sections. You can pick where you want it to be. Good thing about legal ethics is it's only 2 credits. It's only gonna meet once a week, so it might not be so bad to pop on after property, and has sort of said, that you can kind of go from the 6 to 8 and maybe pick up the legal ethics from 8 to 9 and it's not as horrible. Same thing we offered over the summertime. So if you want to get that Crim Pro and those legal ethics out of the way over the summer so that your 2L schedule has removed those other required courses and you just are stuck with the con law on the property, you can do that. It's sort of a helpful way to feel like you're making some progress. I've got a question over here. We're going to talk about summers. Hold on to that question about the summertime stuff. In terms of how to take evidence stuff. Stay with me. Okay, so 86 credits. This is where you guys are starting to hear these rumors, and I have to confess this was a thing. This was not a Sarah Stanley thing. This is something that somebody messed the math up a long, long time ago. But basically, here's how it goes. You will end your first semester with 19 credits. You did 10 in the fall. You're doing 9 right now. That means that you've got 67 credits left to do, which in theory should be done over the next 3 years or 6 semesters. However, if I just evenly spread those 67 credits out over the next 6 semesters, I am left with 1 semester that needs to be 12 credits, which most folks don't want to do because then you're paying a full-time price tag. The other way to do that is you have to do at least 1 credit over a summertime. Now, a little annoying, but the other thing is most of you guys, having been through this now for a couple of weeks or almost a year, know that to work full-time and also to be taking a full 11 credit part-time load for 3 more years is a lot to ask of yourself. So what we recommend and what a lot of evening students do is even if maybe we didn't necessarily quote unquote need that extra credit at some point over summer, most evening students are using summertime to gain some ground on their credits and lower those average credit amounts over the course of the year. So if you do a summer of 6 or 7 credits, that's obviously bringing the average credit load down by a significant amount, 1 or 2 credits, right, over the course of the rest of your time here. And then it doesn't need to be every summer. You can just do 1 summer of credits. You can do 2 summers of credits, and then that load comes down even more. If you are wanting to kind of sit down and really play with that, we can take a look at it. But do know that the math is such that you cannot not do any summers and also be part-time every semester. Otherwise, we're going to have 1 credit hanging out there that we need to do. So you're either going to need to do at least 1 or more credits over a summer. Again, lots of folks will take more because it's going to keep that average credit load down. Or you're going to have to go up to full-time for 1 semester, which most folks don't want to do because of the money. So keep in mind, though, the 86 credits, that includes all types of credits. When we're going to the 86, a credit is a credit is a credit, which means that's independent studies, that's journal credits or competition credits, that is main campus credits. You are allowed, as every student is, to take up to 6 credits from main campus that are graduate level credits, as long as you can make a case to us that they are going to complement your degree in some way. So if you, for instance, are really interested in environmental law, but you feel like you need a greater basis of environmental science, or there's some sort of knowledge gap there, and you find on main campus a graduate level course in the Intro to Environmental Science or some sort of thing that's going to complement your work in the environmental law field, we can approve that, and it can count as the 3 credits towards your WCL degree, which is pretty cool. But you can take up to 6 of those. Please do note, and this is something that can get a little bit nitty-gritty, there is a limit of 12 what we call non-contact credits. And those are going to be all of the things that I just talked about, which are the independent studies, main campus credits, and journal credits. Those are credits that you are getting for not sitting in a classroom here on WCL's campus. And we limit you to 12 of those. Basically, it's because we can't let you independent study your way to JD. Really, really hard to hit all 12. You got to really be doing a whole lot of independent studies or externing a lot, which again, evening students don't tend to do. It can get a little touchy if you're on journal and you're on e-board of journal because you get even more credits for that. If you feel like you are getting a lot of credit and not having to come to school for those credits, you can send me an email. I'll take a look at it, make sure we're still cool with the limit of 12. But like I said, nothing really to worry about, especially not right now. You guys have tons of time to manipulate that. But it is worth knowing. I know independent studies can be helpful for evening students because of the flexibility of not having to come to class, but there is a limit on the number of credits we can do with those. Okay, so I talked a little bit about residency. Upper level writing requirement, like I said, 7,000 words, a legal paper. Most folks will do them through a seminar. You can also use your journal comment, which is one of the requirements for being on journal, is you have to write a note or a comment, or you can use an independent study, which is you are registering for 2 credits. You're going to work one-on-one with a professor. You guys are going to kind of decide how often you meet, how often you send a draft over to him or her. They're going to grade it. You get a grade on the paper, which is the grade for the 2 credits of independent study, and it can be certified as the upper level writing requirement. The last thing is the experiential professional skills. Like I said, 6 credits, externship, clinic, or the approved classes, and that's it. So I know that some of you may be thinking about switching divisions for one reason or another. You may have decided that 4 years is just simply too long to do this. Or you are realizing that you would rather be able to spend more time here during the day, whatever it may be. If you are interested in converting from a part-time student to a full-time student to be able to graduate in 3 years instead of 4, basically what that means is that I need to turn your 2 part-time semesters into what we would consider to be full-time semesters. And the way that I do that is the same as if you had dropped below a resident semester as a part-time student, which is I use summertime. So if you're interested in divisional shift, you're definitely going to be taking some credits over summer to be able to make up that ground on both the credit and the residency piece. I need to be able to have enough credits over a summer that I can sort of take them out of that bucket and drop them into the different semester buckets and make those semesters sort of equal 12, right? So 12 is the minimum to be considered for full time. So for your 9 credit semester, I would need at least 3 summer credits. For your 10 credit semester, I would need at least 2. This means that you are taking at least 5 credits at some point over the summer times, either one summer or over the course of separate summers, which is what is allowing me to kind of convert those part-time semesters. Even if you shift divisions, your con law and your property will not be going anywhere. You will still be taking con law with the evening section on Monday, Wednesday, 6 to 8, unless again we're changing that, but that's where it's been historically. And you will still take property in the spring of your 2L year with the evening section. That doesn't go away. Basically, it's just about making sure that we're using our summer times to convert the semesters that we need. If you are considering a divisional shift, it is not usually all that hard. We can definitely make a plan, but you definitely want to see me because we want to make sure that we're putting everything in place and being deliberate about what we're taking when we're going to use those summertime credits to get us ahead of the game. So it's not usually a big deal. It's a request to the registrar, but you're going to want to meet with me and we're going to sketch out sort of the next couple of years so that you're comfortable with what we're going to do. So let's talk about summertime. Obviously, it's a big thing for evening students for all the reasons we've talked about. Most students will look to register for at least 6 credits because that's the magic number for federal aid. So if Uncle Sam is helping you pay for any of law school, then you are always going to need to be in a minimum of 6 credits. That's what allows us to give you loans. For summertime, you can do 7 credits. You can do 8 credits with administrative approval. So you won't be able to register for 8 all by yourself. You're going to need to put in a little request for administrative approval, which I will take a look at, we'll talk about, and then I can approve. You can do less than that. You are just going to write us a check out of pocket. But for students who are maybe working, I have seen evening students maybe just take one course at 2 or 3 credits. Maybe they just want to take the Crim Pro, and they'll just write the tuition check for that class. So here's the question that I got earlier about kind of these blitz classes. I call them these intensive institutes. We offer a whole bunch of different things over the summertime. So a course like Crim Pro, a 3-credit course that is typically done during a semester, is going to go the full summer session, which is about 10 weeks. You're going to start the very last week of May, probably the very end of May. You're going to finish up in the first week of August. Keep in mind that it is typically a 14-week course, but we're going to squeeze it into 10 weeks over the summertime. So the class hours are going to be maybe a little bit longer. So with stuff like Crim Pro, we do offer evidence over the summer. That is going to be, though, running the full 10-week summer session because there's a lot to cover. We have a lot to do. The other things that we offer are what I call these intensive institutes, which are offered, different departments run them. They're usually offered for a very limited time. It might only be 1 or 2 or maybe 3 days, but it's going to be intensive. So if it's only offered for 1 or 2 days, let's say it's only offered for June 1st and June 2nd, it's going to be all day. It's going to be from 9 to 3 on June 1st and June 2nd, but you come out with a credit. So what can be sort of cool about those is if a student decides it's worth it just for me to take the PTO for one Friday so I can go to this intensive institute, I'm able to get a credit worth of work out of it, which allows me to maybe only have to take 1 full summer course. So maybe I'm taking criminal procedure, which is going to run all summer for 3 credits, but maybe to kind of top on, I'm going to do some of these institutes for only 1 or 2 or 3 days at a time. You should know that you cannot just take a whole bunch of these within 1 week. We limit you, the ABA, I should say, limits students to an average of 2 credits per week. So you're not going to be able to just say, okay, no problem, I'll take 3 of the institutes 1 week, I'll take 2 of the institutes another week, bada bing, bada boom, I'm done. Not exactly. So we're just going to make sure we do stagger the institutes so it's kind of easy to be able to take a bunch if you're interested in that, but you're not going to be able to just get them all out of the way on the first 2 weeks of June. Finals for those types of courses are typically take-home finals, and so you will do the course on, let's say, June 1st, June 2nd, and then usually you'll have until the end of the summer session to complete the take-home final. You are eligible to, there isn't going to be a whole lot of classes offered over the summer that you're not going to be allowed to take. The only things you're not going to be allowed to take are going to be things that regular 1L students wouldn't be allowed to take yet, which are usually going to be the civil or criminal trial advocacy courses. Those are usually going to need to have evidence as a pre or co-requisite. I think the ones over the summers may have it as evidence needing to be a prerequisite as opposed to being able to take it concurrently because they're moving so quickly and they're going to outpace the evidence class essentially. Where if during the semester they might be able to move more in tandem with it. That being said, that you are going to be able to get into any of the institutes. It's going to be fine. You're going to be able to take any of the evidence or the business associations or the Crim Pro. That's all going to be fair game. There's going to be very few things that you won't be able to take because we know that everybody's looking at trying to get some credits done over the summer, both evening and full-time students. So there isn't going to be a ton of stuff that you won't be able to take. The courses that will have prerequisites will probably be listed within Eagle Service. You'll see that there's going to be a pre or co-requisite. What you will not see, so this is a example of what is listed on our page. This is what's on the registrar's page. And so this is last summer, obviously, so don't get too excited. But what I wanted to show you, can you guys see my arrow? Is if you look, great, okay. So if you look at this, right, this IP, copyright licensing and open licenses, 1 credit being taught by Michael Carroll, who we all know is fantastic. It is only running Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, May 29th through June 1st. So it's only those 4 days in the morning, 9 to 12:30. So if you have the type of job where you think you might be able to work remotely for a couple of days, and you might be able to get here in the morning, or you can take those mornings off, and you really want to take Mike Carroll's Copyright Licensing and Open License Institute, you only are going to have to do that from May 29th to June 1st. On the other hand, here's criminal procedure, right? Regular, oh, my bad, hold on, sorry. Regular 3-credit course taught by Brent Newton, who has taught CrimPro for us for a long time. This is Monday, Wednesday. This is going the whole session. This is going May 29th to August 6th, 6:30 to 8:30, right? So that's where you can kind of see the ability to cobble these together. You're going to have some that are going to go the whole time. You're going to have some that are just going to pop in real quick for a couple of days. And you can see some of the other things here that we have offered over the summertime. For instance, last time we did appellate advocacy. We did it, I think it was like every other Friday, because it was a compressed schedule. So we try to be sort of creative with the summer things, knowing that everybody's got, other stuff going on, and that you guys probably want a little bit of a break to not have to come to school all the time. But this is where, if you're looking at our site, you can see where the institutes are going to differ from the full classes. You're going to see the credit load here. You're going to see the days of the week they meet here. But then really the critical piece is right here, which is you're not going to come Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday all summer long. You're only going to come for these couple of days. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about journal. I know it's on everybody's mind. The first thing is the e-boards are going to be the best source of information about how their particular journals work. Each journal has their own set of bylaws, their own editorial board that's going to run the show. So if you have questions about the time commitment, when they have people writing their comment, how much choice you have in terms of when you're writing your comment, that's going to be really worth going to sort of the journal open sessions or the info sessions and kind of asking those questions directly of the journal. The choice that really needs to be made for you guys is that you essentially have 2 bites at the apple. You can write on, which is the process of writing you get your packet and you're going to write a response to it, you're going to write a note. You can either do that in the spring of 1L or in the spring of 2L. Journal requires a 2-year commitment, which is why you have to at least do it either 1L or 2L. You can't wait until 3rd year, otherwise you don't have enough time to give them. So 1L or 2L. Basically, after that, you will begin probably in the summer after you write on. So if you were to write on this year, you would likely begin some journal work over this summer. Journal credits break down to you get 2 credits for your first year, which is your junior staff year. So you can put those in a variety of places. You can split them up 1 and 1 between fall and spring. You can put them both together. Some journals will let you put them over the summertime, which can be helpful sometimes if you're either writing your comment over the summer or you're trying to get to that magic 6 credit number for loans. And then your second year of journal, you're entitled to another 2 credits if you're on regular staff. If you've decided that you are one of those journal lovers and you want to be on eBoard, you get 4 credits your second year of journal. So we're looking at over the course of time, over the 2 years, 4 credits if you were like Sarah Stanley, which is just a junior staffer and then a senior staffer. Or if you look to go to eBoard, you're going to get 6 credits all told, 2 from the first year, 4 from the second year. So some things to consider. For me, you want to be very deliberate if you're thinking about joining journal now, writing on in your 1L year. Mostly because we still have a lot we kind of need to get done, right? We still have the doctrinal courses we're trying to get out of the way. We still are we're going to add 2 credits. You don't have to take your journal credits, but it's helpful, obviously. So we might want to think about where we would want to place those credits. The last thing is you will be taking on additional work, right? That's part of the game. So when you sign on to journal, you are required to hold office hours for them. The big thing is that you will be assigned a time over the course of the academic year to write your comment, which is a major piece of legal scholarship. The goal is to get published. It'll be about 65 pages. It's a not insignificant piece of writing. And so you will probably be assigned to do your comments, like I said, either over the summer or in the fall or in the spring. Over the summer might not be so bad, but it can be a little tricky. You guys are still, you haven't gotten to common law yet. So if you were really interested in common law, you're not going to, maybe be as familiar with that subject area in case you wanted to write on that. The other thing is if it's during the semester, it's a lot of work and you're still in common law or property, maybe taking CrimPro and ethics. When you are not writing your comment, you are not off the hook. You are doing this thing called spading, which is you are, for the journal has gotten entries from legal authors all over the country. They've decided what that particular journal is going to publish in the upcoming edition. And then the staffer's job is to both edit and site check that piece of scholarship, which is checking the blue booking, making sure that it makes sense, making sure that the semicolons are in the right place, all that good stuff. And then this thing called source collecting, which is for any citation that's in the piece of work, you will go and get a copy of that particular citation and put it in a big binder. So if they cite to a particular case in the 3rd Federal Reporter, blah, 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 you are going to go, you get assigned a set of footnotes, you're going to go to our library, you're going to find that Federal Reporter, you're going to find that page, you're going to find that quote, you're going to scan it or copy it, you're going to highlight where that quote is, and it's going to go in the book, which is to make sure that what everything they're citing to is true. But it is not an insignificant amount of work. It's added stuff to do. The good thing about that, though, about the spading is you can do it on your own time. You can come and do it, in the middle of the night. You can do it over weekends. So it's not going to necessarily suck up more time for you of what would be class time or work time, but it's an additional time commitment. Let me see what questions we have on journal. So take on the importance of journal for different legal careers. So this is tricky. OCPD is helpful to weigh on this stuff too. Journal for folks who are thinking about clerking and folks who are thinking about going into big law. Journal is going to be important. It's going to be a resume item. It just is. Listen, I will be frank with you. I did journal. It was one of those things where you get told a lot. You should. There are jobs in which the posting itself will say journal membership or journal participation required, right? Particularly for things like clerking or for big law. Other stuff, maybe a prosecutor's office or a PD office, a public defender's office, probably won't care as much about journal. They're going to care a lot more about how much you've seen the inside of the classroom. So there are certainly careers in which, or sectors in which journal is not as big of a deal. It is going to be a resume item. It's going to go on. It's going to stay on there forever. It's a little feather in your cap, certainly. But there are plenty of opportunities to go and do good work and be a successful attorney without it. The good thing is that we also have so many of the briefs. And so if you are maybe more of a policy person, if you think at any point, policy either administratively going into an agency or maybe even going to the Hill is something, journal may not be as big of a deal with that. But I know that we're working to get our legislation and policy brief back up to snuff. And so that might be something that you want to get involved in, which is still going to show publication experience, if that makes sense. So OCPD can also help with that. I went and asked OCPD knowing that I was going to start to get these types of questions, and that's what they basically told me, was that for anybody looking at clerking, journals is going to be kind of a non-negotiable. Big law still really likes to see it. After that, it's going to be a feather in your cap, but it's not going to be completely dispositive. Do you have a choice of when you write the comment? So I think different journals do this differently. This would be a good question for going and asking them. I think that you can ask. I think some journals have an option of you being able to rank your preferences. There are, because we also will do grade on over the summertime, right? Which is you maybe either decided you didn't want to do all the work of write on, but you had pretty good grades your first year, and so you're going to grade on over the summertime. That's where they fill their last remaining slots. Or grade up. That's also a thing. So if you write on to a journal, but you really have your heart set on AULR and your grades are good, you may be able to grade up from, let's say, the International Law Review. It's still a great journal, but maybe you want to really kind of that quote-unquote flagship journal. You can grade up to AULR. If you grade on or grade up, you are not going to write over the summertime because all that's happening over the summertime. Other than that, I think it's up to the journal to decide if they just assign you or if you have a preference. When does grade on happen? Grade on has to happen after you get all of your grades in. So you guys have lived that life, and that can be a little bit frustrating at times if it feels like grades aren't coming in as quickly as you maybe want them. So I think June is probably pushing it. I think grade on is probably more likely a mid-July thing. But it's usually July once everybody, including day students, have all of their grades in. Tara says, for choosing your option of your comment, that it may depend, if you grade on or write on, but if you write on, that you may get a choice of which option you want to, right? So option is what they call the timing of the comment. Any other questions on journal before I move on? Does all that make sense? Okay, if you think of anything, feel free to write it up. All right, so looking ahead, here's where we are. So I am just like you guys. I am always looking out for when the schedule is finally going to come out. What I have been told from the powers that be is that the summer and the fall, both, they will be released, quote unquote, around spring break. So that, to me, sounds like either right before but I'm thinking more likely right when you get back. So I've got my eye on the 18th, which is the Monday that you guys all come back from spring break. When is registration? Registration, also from the powers that be, I'm being told, is going to be April 8th-ish. Basically, what we need to do, because we register via Eagle Service, which is a university-wide platform, we need to kind of make sure that we are working with main campus and we have our slot plugged in there when nobody else is going to be registering between all the different programs and schools on main campus, because otherwise the system's going to get overrun. So we are negotiating with what our date's going to be. It almost always is April 8th or 9th, so that's a pretty good guess, but that's what we're looking at. Remember, con law is going to be pegged for you. You will not have any choices. You will need to register for it yourself. It won't be like this past semester where you just magically had a schedule because the registrar controlled your life. When you are registering for your terms, both summer and fall, you'll register for those at the same time. When you're registering for your terms, you will need to go proactively register for con law. You just won't have any choices on when or where that's going to be. And remember, you have to have Crim Pro either in your summer plan or in your fall plan. That is a non-negotiable. The other thing is I will be back. We are going to do a deeper dive on registration and advocate planning in March. I'm going to take some screenshots and really walk you through how to register since you haven't seen it yet, where you'll be able to see prerequisites, how you'll be able to plan and then hit register when your time comes up, all that good stuff. I'm also always available for individual appointments through the OAE booking link. If you don't have it bookmarked or saved, you can email me and I will shoot it back to you. It's in my signature line. Also, if you've emailed with me, it's in the bottom of my signature. And I'm always happy to take individual appointments. If you can't, I'm here late until 6 p.m. on Wednesdays and Thursdays. If that doesn't work, no problem. Just note in the comments of the appointment that you are hoping to do a phone appointment. And you can shoot me a call and I'll be all ready to go and we'll get as much done over the phone as we can. But as we look ahead, I'm happy to start taking some of those appointments. Is it true that scholarships are not applied ending summer? Excellent question. That is true. So merit scholarships, if you've got any merit aid for school, that is a academic year only thing, and that is fall and spring. So there are other obvious financial aid options for summertime, but the scholarship itself, from my understanding, double check with this one financial aid because they're the money people. But from what I understand, the scholarship is not applicable to summertime terms. If you are merit scholarship and you are considering a divisional shift, no, you should not. You will not lose your scholarship, but what will happen is your scholarship is given to you for the amount of years we are expecting you to be here. So if you're an evening student, your scholarship for X amount will be for X amount over 4 years. If you switch divisions, it's going to be for X amount over 3 years. You don't get to take that 4th year of money and sort of spread it out over the 3 years, right? We're now assuming that the tuition is kind of, equaling out such that we're going to take the 3 years of scholarship and apply it now to the 3 years of time, as opposed to the 4 years of scholarship and apply it to 3 years of time. So I get this question a lot. I'm seeing a question about pass-fail. That's not a thing. The things that are approved to be pass-fail have been pre-approved by the faculty. You do not have any say in it. So pass-fail credits are journal credits. They are externship field credits. And every now and again, a competition may have a pass-fail component. But there will not be a regular academic course that we offer that is going to be allowed to be taken pass-fail. It will look sometimes like that because when you register, it'll have a little thing and it'll look like there's a drop-down menu that will say graded or pass-fail. But pass-fail shouldn't actually be an option. Everything here is graded except for those credits which have been pre-approved to be pass-fail. The other ones are, I think some clinic credits have been approved to be pass-fail, some of the clinic work credits, but it is not, you will not have any choices on that. Can summer internships count as experiential credits? Sure. So if you do a summer internship, the trick is to get it to count for credit is we have to turn it into a credit-bearing thing, which means you are going to turn that internship into an externship. All externship credits count towards the skills credit. For an externship, what you will do is you will have a 2-credit seminar where you're going to have to come here and you'll journal about what's going on at work, and you'll talk about communication and email etiquette and all that sort of, professional development stuff for 2 credits. And then depending on the amount of time you are at the placement, we will also give you field credit for the time that you're at work. And that will depend on how often you're there. If you're there about 10 hours a week, we'll give you 2 field credits. If you're there about 15 hours a week, we'll give you 3. And if you're there for 20 credits or more, we'll give you 4. So the magic of that is if you're thinking, okay, I'm trying to get to 6 for my money, and I'm doing 2 credits for the seminar, and I'm going to do 4 field credits because maybe I've taken a leave of absence from work and I'm going to be at this other detail for full time. That's my package of 6 credits that qualifies me for federal aid. That's also the package of 6 credits to get you completely done with your experiential skills requirement. Both the seminar and the field credits will count towards that experiential credit requirement. Internships without any credit component, if you're just doing something out of the goodness of your heart, those won't count for credit. It'll look the same on a resume. An employer's not going to know whether you did something for credit or not, but it's not going to be able to count it towards your experiential credit. There is a discussion. The question is whether there's a discussion about WCL will change its policy on paid externships. There is a discussion on that. Right now, externships have to be for credit only. If you receive a stipend of any kind, or if it's something, let's say you are doing with your current job and you're going to go to this other detail, but you're still getting paid, right now the policy is you cannot get paid and get credit at the same time for the same thing. SBA has taken up that topic. I don't know where they are on it. I know they've been in discussions with the externship office and with the Office of Academic Affairs. I would say that I mean, looking ahead, it's possible that that does get changed. That is going to require faculty to vote on that, which means it's not going to change quickly. It just means that it's going to have to go before faculty committees. It's going to need to go then before the full faculty, and it's going to need to get approved. So it's not something that's going to turn on a dime, but I know that it is a conversation that SBA is having. If you're a government employee and able to get a detail to do the equivalent of legal intern work, can you, during your work hours, can you turn that into credit? So that is a little bit that question about, are you still getting paid? If you are not getting paid for that time, then yes, we could turn it into credit. If you are still getting paid for those hours, then no, we're not going to be able to turn that into credit. The other question is there a possibility of exceptions for that? I have never seen exceptions for that. For the externship credit while you're still working. Folks who have evening students who have decided to do an externship or an internship have either not done it for credit if they have changed their work schedule and maybe have a flex hour and then they're able to go and intern sometime. They just do it as an internship as opposed to an externship. Or if they are doing a flex schedule and what they're doing is they're not getting paid for it, right? They're going there in the afternoons or they're working over the weekends or whatever the case may be. We could still maybe talk about doing that as an externship, but there has never been an exception that I have known of where you are getting paid either via your job or just otherwise. If it's just a stipend through the organization, and we've also been able to give you credit. As a journal follow-up, how are grade-on offers determined? Is it a set top percentage? No. So grade-on is a little bit hard to pin down. It's not like it's going to be you have to be in the top 10% or you have to be in the top 5%. Basically, journals will have done kind of their draft day after the write-on process, and they will have chosen their staffers, and it's this sort of interesting process of haggling and figuring out how many people everybody needs and which submissions everybody was really impressed by and whatnot. And they will never have filled all of their spots. Sometimes they fill more through write-on, sometimes they don't. It can depend on the quality of the write-on submissions for that particular year. So there may be some years where there's a lot of grade-on spots. There may be some years where there aren't a ton of grade-on spots. There's always some. After that, they will begin just sorting out and filling spots with everybody who has submitted, who's thrown their hat in the ring for grade-on. So there is no strict floor, I should say. There's no, well, if you only have an X GPA, there's no way you should consider grade-on. If you're thinking about it, you should always go ahead and think about throwing your hat in the ring for grade-on. You may want to talk to the journals and see if you are eligible to do the grade-on in 2L. I know you can write on, Tara. Do you know if you can grade on in 2L? If you're still with me. To see, because that's going to give you an additional opportunity. If you've got grades that you think you want to pull up, another year is going to give you an opportunity to pull them up. If you've got, oh, you can't, okay. You can only grade on once, right? But you can pick which year you do it. So if you were looking and seeing, did you want to pull your grades up a little bit, maybe a couple of extra semesters of class might help you. If you really rocked and rolled this semester and you want to skip the write-on hassle and you're thinking your grades are good enough to grade on right now, and you don't want to run the risk of maybe losing some points on your GPA with some more time, then maybe you want to grade on over this summer. But there isn't a thing where I'm going to say, or anybody can say to you, if you're not in the top third, you don't grade on. That's not true. They'll keep filling the spots until they have run out of spots in the journal. Other questions? Will you know your ranking? Excellent question. I believe so. I think that they tried to do the ranking in June. I think grade on is in July, so you should be able to see. If you can't, if we haven't gotten the full ranking done yet, keeping in mind that you guys are a little bit wonky because you're ranked just with each other. What you can do, though, is go and see the year before, right? So it's going to not be quite the same. There's always going to be a couple of variances, but you'll be able to go on and see what the GPAs for the ranking were for last year's class. And it's not going to, I don't think it's going to vary, super duper dramatically. It's going to be imperfect, certainly, but it's at least a benchmark as you're deciding. The other thing, like I said, is if you feel pretty good about your grades, you can go ahead and toss your hat in the ring. Keeping in mind that if you do get on, we've added that additional work. We've added the comment, we've added spading, we've added that on top of getting the Con Law and the Crim Pro done. So make sure that you're being sort of deliberate about that choice, but also think about, could we use a couple of extra semesters in terms of our grade, or are we thinking that grading on after this year is our best bet? Reading more questions. So yeah, this is a good point. So the other thing about the journal is the 2-year commitment of when you were trying to decide to do it. Do you write on your 1L year or your 2L year? The flip side of waiting until your 2L year and doing it ahead of your 1L year is that you're done. Your last year, you're done. You don't have to do it anymore. You've fulfilled your requirements and you're living your best life in your 4L year. There's validity to that, certainly. The thing for me, though, is that I would rather know that we've got our sea legs under us once we are kind of out of the doctrinal section thing. It will be the first time you guys are putting schedules together yourselves. We don't have a ton of wiggle room, and so your schedule may be a little bit wonky as we're still finishing up Con Law and stuff. So there's certainly, I'm sure there are plenty of evening students who have decided to write on in their 1L year so that they can have that 4L year and it's behind them. And I hear that. I think there's validity to that. But by that point, we've got so much flexibility anyway that I don't know that adding the journal into the 4L year, especially as a senior staffer, you're not doing your comment anymore. You're just doing spading, or maybe you're on e-board. Isn't really that big of a deal. And we've gotten everything else out of the way. So we've got some additional flexibility there. But there's certainly validity to that, and that's where I would really recommend going to the journal meetings, going and talking to the e-boards, and trying to get it from folks who have recently made those types of calls, because I think that it is going to be pretty personal, to what you think. But I'm just always one, this is my a little bit of a risk-averse personality. I'm always one that I would rather get my sea legs looking forward, because we've got a lot of variables coming up in the 2L year with picking our own schedule, and we've got a Con Law and everything to finish out, that I would rather, really feel secure in that before we add more to the plate. Okay, Tara is doing some fact checking for us. Thanks, Tara. So you can only grade on after the 1L year. So you can write on either 1L or 2L, but you will not have an opportunity to grade on after your 2L year to journal. So good question about potentially graduating in 3.5 years. And how that impacts life, right? So if you were looking at 3.5 years, there are a couple things that we're going to want to consider. One, we're just going to make sure that we have all of our ducks in a row and we've crossed all our T's and all that good stuff. The other thing is we're going to be thinking about our bar exam plan. That's going to change your timeline if you graduate in December to studying for the bar January into February and taking the February bar exam, most likely. That's usually how we set it up. That can be, it's essentially very similar to the summer with some obvious caveats. One is the holidays. And so on the whole, winter folks study a little bit less. Less is assigned by bar prep companies for the winter bar, knowing that there's going to be those added hurdles to jump with the holidays. And so it's a little bit crunchier on the timeline, and you've got the holidays impacting your bar study. It's not the end of the world, but it is what it is. Just across the nation, folks tend to study a couple hours less over the winter time, and bar prep companies sort of adjust for that. The other thing is keeping in mind the type of employers that you're looking at. Graduating off cycle, meaning you're going to graduate in December as opposed to May, can sometimes be super advantageous. You're kind of either getting ahead of the game, maybe you'll be barred before everybody else gets out of school, and sometimes that can be super helpful. Sometimes, depending on certain employers, they hire on very specific cycles, which are calibrated to the traditional school cycle. So what you don't want to have happen is you are looking at, let's say, maybe there's clerkships that you're looking at and you've decided to graduate in 3.5 years, but all clerkships are starting in August. And so now we have to figure out what to do between February and August. So we're going to want to work with OCPD on that in terms of the employer piece. I'm happy to talk with anybody about the impact on the bar exam and making sure that we're comfortable with that in terms of graduating in December. But those are the main impacts. If you aren't able to take classes or anything over the summer, so if you can't take any credits over this coming summer, no, it's not the end of the world. We have 2 more to go. Some folks absolutely need this summer. I've had evening folks say, I am burnt out. Rhetoric really took it out of me. Can I just go to work this summer? And I say, absolutely, of course you can. We are going to look then at either 2L summer or 3L summer, and we're going to know that we're going to need to be plopping some stuff in there. So absolutely, it is not the end of the world if you decide to take a pass on credits this coming summer after your 1L year. For whatever reason, you may feel like you need to do that. Some folks will say, no, I'm just going to keep my nose to the grindstone and I'm going to grind it out another couple of credits and then I'll be able to take a breather down the line a little bit. But no, it's not going to be a problem if we don't want to do anything over this summer. We have 2 other summers to grab what we need. So it's about making sure that you are taking care of everything that you need, taking care of everything that's going on at work, and just knowing that if we take a pass this summer, we are going to swing around and we're going to do something at one point over the next couple summers. Final questions before we get out of here. Okay, folks, thanks so much for joining me. I hope it was helpful. I think it was hopefully a good intro to some stuff that you guys have been asking about, and I know I've been starting to look ahead. I will be in your lives, like I said. I'll be swinging back around working with Tara for a good time to come back, answer any other questions that you may have had now that you kind of have this. Hopefully the schedule will be out, so we'll be able to talk real apples to apples, knowing what we're doing. And doing a full kind of debrief on how you register. We'll go through Eagle Service and all of that good stuff. If you have questions in the meantime, or you know that you have maybe a unique circumstance, or you want to talk more about a divisional shift, or you want to talk more about graduating early, make an appointment. We'll sit down, we'll sketch everything out. We'll do more of a deep dive into residency, which can be a little tricky sometimes. I am going to, this webinar has been recorded, so I'm going to convert the recording. It'll go up on my WCL, and then I'm happy to pass the PowerPoint slides just over to Tara, and she can shoot them out to you guys if that would be helpful. What I can also do to send over to Tara to shoot out to you guys is I have a graduation requirements checklist for evening students that will take you through. It's going to be a little bit more nitty-gritty than maybe you need right this second, but it'll be good to have. You'll be able to see it. So I'll shoot the PowerPoints over to you, and I'll shoot the evening students checklist over, and you guys can start checking some boxes because you've already done some stuff. You've already done torts and contracts and all that good stuff. Okay, last things before we go. I will send those out. Anything else, team? All right, folks, thanks again so much for joining, and I hope everybody has a good holiday if you're able to have slept in this morning. But we will see you a little later. Have a great afternoon, folks. Thanks.